Rodric Lenhart, thank you so much for coming on the Inner Edison podcast, and maybe one day I'll catch up with my video.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
Hey, no problem. I've been doing podcasting. Actually, I've been doing radio since 2018, and then I turned that into a podcast, and I started doing this kind of podcast in the last 3 years. And it's weird. A lot of the other people had so many issues in the beginning, and the service I use now, StreamYard, hasn't had a lot. But lately, in the last 6 months, they've been having some major issues, like my videos slowed down like that. You're perfect, and I'm like super slow. And as I and I talk about this all the time, I tested it's like 700, 400, ridiculous numbers. But why am I so slow? Anyway, I guess I was
trying to throw me off. That's all it is.
I was dropped as a kid. That's what it was. All right, I checked a lot of stuff, but I like your book, especially because my wife's from Hawaii. She lived there for most of her life, and all they use is slippers, as I call flip flops. And it was talking about the different phases. First, how did you write the book? How long ago did you write this book, The $1 Million Flip Flops?
I wrote the book. I started in January. I sold my last business last June, so a little over a year ago. And semi-retired, and was on a beach in Thailand and looked over at Nicole, my girlfriend, fiance wife, and said, "We got to give it all away." And she was like, what are you talking about? And I had been formulating, like most entrepreneurs, I'm a lifelong entrepreneur. So I lasted all of 3 days before I was thinking about the next thing I needed to do. And that was this book. And it really was just all the tools that I've learned as an entrepreneur. It was silly to just let that die inside of me 30, 40 years from now. So that's what started as the book. It was the way I've run businesses, the way I've built my life around those businesses. And I didn't know if I was going to sell one copy or 100,000 copies, but on launch day, we hit number 1 in 7 categories on Amazon. So we were bestseller and top new release, and going head to head against some of my idols, which was fun. I got to poke some fun at them. So it's been a ride, man. I tell people I just keep walking through open doors as they present themselves. Like, I have a big why. I don't know how I'm going to get there. And that's the way I like it.
That's amazing. And get it. I hope you can deal with the fact that I'm super frozen.
No worries. No worries.
So you're a serial entrepreneur, I assume, is what you mean.
Yeah.
So basically you start a business and you set it up to be sold. Is that how you do it?
No, I've had kind of a varied ride. And, I had a job. I always say that's the bad word of the day, job, for
just over broke.
Just about 2.5, 3 years. And it literally almost killed me. And we can talk about that too. But, I was that kid that sold golf balls at the end of the road and did all the candy drives and, just figured out a way. I knew that other people paying me was never going to be the answer. I grew up with no money. Listen to my parents argue about money every night. And, if I wanted a Nintendo or a bike or some new shoes or whatever, I was going to figure out a way how to get that money. So that just grew into bigger and bigger things as I got older. And ultimately I bought my first house when I graduated from UT, moved to Charleston, South Carolina. I bought my first house when I was 21, when they were giving out, if you had a heartbeat, you could get a loan.
Back in 2005.
Yeah. And that ended up being my first rental. And I had a real estate and construction career for close to 20 years. So multiple businesses that all revolved around that. So, but I learned a lot. I only sold my last business. I had another 8-figure construction company that I just shut down. And, there's a lot of stories around all that stuff, but it was learning to build a life first and then the business around that, so that my cup was always full so that I could fill others.
Yeah, and I get that, because that's kind of what I've been going through recently. I've been in the mortgage industry for 20 some years, and I've had multiple companies and done multiple things, but it's like I've always done it for everybody else, right? You, instead of focusing on what's best for me and my wife and everything else, you build it and you're like, okay, I want to be good to everybody. But now it's like, okay, I only care, and might come off wrong, about me. If it's not good for me, it's not good for anybody else. And that's how I'm looking at it. So I've made some changes and pissed off some, and salespeople and other people. I'm like, I don't care. I'm changing this. This is not how I want to live the next 20, 30 years of my life. I want to do it differently. My book came out in February. I only got bestseller in 2 categories. So, and that my book was Financial Freedom, Building Personal Wealth through Home Ownership, which is my life story, kind of the same. What you write your book about what happened to you. And that's what I wrote my book about.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to the employee thing where you almost died, almost killed you, I should say.
So I was 23, 24 years old, and I was walking through the park behind that first house I bought one day and ran into a new home development it was a Fortune 100 builder. And I walked in the front door and met Lane, who is still a good friend of mine 20 odd years later. And I said, man, I need to be part of this gravy train, and signed up. And a couple of years later, I had slowly shut down the 2 businesses I was running at the time, which was a wholesale cabling company. And I had developed a automotive part for the 4th gen Volkswagen, kind of a long story, but
no,
shut
you keep
those
throwing
down.
it out there. You're talking about something and we can go there or we can go here. So we have to stop every couple of minutes, but go there. I don't, you know what I mean? If it adds to the story.
People aren't really interested in a cold air intake for a 4th gen VR6 Volkswagen, right? And what it took to
the fact that
build that little business.
Yeah, I know, but for what you do things and you have things that you grow and you build it, and it's your love is what is important. And that, let's go back to the job though.
Yeah,
right?
go back to the job. So I excelled in that. I've been in sales my whole life, so it wasn't hard to sell new homes. It was a good product too, which I always say you sell from here. So if you're listening, you sell from your heart, not from your head. And if you believe in what you're selling, sales isn't a hard job. And I was making more in a month than my parents made in a year, and could do anything I want, go anywhere I want, buy anything I want. And I was absolutely miserable. And I woke up every day with that, is this all there is feeling? And that's ultimately where the 5 phases of entrepreneurship came from. Was I found myself in that middle phase, which is the anxious philosopher. And we can go through the 5 phases, but that job, I woke up on an operating table one day about to get the discs in my back fused, and a friend had given me the book by John Sarno called Healing Back Pain. I don't know if you're familiar with that book, but basically it describes that, the pain is in your brain, and what you're feeling is your body's way of keeping you out of emotional distress. And that's exactly where I was. And this surgeon was about to fuse L3, L4, L4, L5. And here I am 20 years later, perfectly healthy, never had to get the surgery. And it was because I was in such tremendous emotional distress. And it was because I chased a job for the money. And if you go through the book and the waves method, specifically what that does is it helps you identify your values and your why and your statement of purpose. And why are you doing anything? And like you said earlier, it's okay to be selfish. That's why the A in waves is authenticity. You're doing this for you, not your parents, your pastor, your partner, for you. And until you identify what that is, you take that job because it pays so well. But my top 3 values are freedom, autonomy, and connection with people. So how on God's green earth did I think I was going to be happy sitting in a model home, seeing 4 people a week where I can't go do my own thing? I'm tied there. I'm working every Easter. I'm working every Thanksgiving. I'm working what, and yeah, it seems silly now. Well, why didn't I recognize that? And that's ultimately what I built for myself when I dug myself out of that hole. And it was bad, man. I mean, I'm talking anxious, depressed, suicidal. Like I was there is no point to this thing anymore. Like this is what everybody told me. This is the dream. How could I possibly be unhappy? There's something wrong with me. And what I built was a decision filter for everything I did moving forward, from houses to jobs to hobbies to partners to name it. And that's why I wrote the book. It was what the waves method is. And I didn't call it that then. It was just my list of how I went through decisions. And it was so I would never find myself in that place again, having made the wrong decision. And I always say, right map, wrong mountain. There's a lot of people that they spend an entire lifetime going by the map that they were given, and they was going up the wrong mountain the whole time.
Well, it all comes from our childhood, right? Knowing what to do, what not to do. And some people, I find that most entrepreneurs have had some bad childhoods, other issues. There was one guy I know, he's like, most entrepreneurs have these 4 things, but only 3 of them.
Yeah.
Right. And it's all that kind of stuff. And I can see that. And back to that, yeah, I understand that model sells, and yeah, they make good money. You do all that, but you're like you said, you're stuck there. So you weren't happy with that. You want to, and it's funny. Those three things is basically what I like doing. My whole life is about having conversations with people, right? I tell people stories across multiple mediums. Well, I can't do that stuck at my office and having to deal with staff and other people. I've gone more contract, but still, it's the point where it's like, this is going to be changed completely forever. And a lot of people look at me like I'm crazy. I go, no, you don't understand. I have a different focus. Ever since my book came out, it's a different focus than what I had before.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I mean, well, when people say you're crazy, that means you're probably doing it right. Right.
Well, I don't care what people say. I'm on talk radio. I don't care. And it's like, some of the big guys on social media and Instagram, they go, until you have haters, you're nobody. And who care until you just got to not care anymore what people say. Once you get there, then you're fine. But a lot of people really care. I don't care. I had a video finally, one of my videos go viral. For me, it was 730,000 views, and it went viral because of all the negativity on it.
Sure.
Right. Half the people were like, he's an idiot. And I would re-engage and go, really? Right. And I tell people any engagement is good engagement.
That's it. Yeah. That's it.
Because they look at the engagement, not whether it was positive or negative. They just look at it. I had more people reach out to me to do to do those affiliate stuff and sell the, videos for them ever since that video. But I tell people I'm not going to do it like NASCAR people do. Right. Just do it for the money. I'm not going to, it has to make sense. Just like you said, it's got to be good. It's got to be part of my life of what I want and what I'm going to put. I'm not just going to promote it because you're paying me $650 for the videos. That's not going to work for me. Yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite things with the trolls is the guys that say, get this off my feed. And then they can't figure out that it's because they comment on every single one of them that it's on their feed. Like the irony is so thick, right?
Yeah. I just tell people hide them and move on. That's I had somebody else go, what should I do with this? Hide it and go on, because they all still think it's there. Nobody else will see it. And they can comment all they want going forward, and they're going to be hidden. So who cares?
Yeah.
But all right. So this wave method, when you said you came up with it when you were younger?
It was when I was coming out of that whole coming out of new homes. It was really my way. I'm a voracious reader. I mean, at that point I'd probably read 200 books, and that's what I went back to. It was, I need to figure out a way. How did I go wrong was what I was looking at. Why did I make this decision? And to your point about, I wouldn't say I had a bad childhood, but I listened to my parents argue about money a lot.
That would be a bad job. I mean, think about it. You're stressed over money, over certain things. You can't.
We had a tiny little house. The kitchen table is 12 feet from my bedroom. I mean, I'm listening to this, and so for me growing up, like, clearly money solves the problems, right? And when you look at the 5 pillars of entrepreneurship and the people that I work with, number 1 and number 2 are the believer and the showman, and I work with people that are profitable, and my numbers usually say $20,000 a month. And the reason I say that, and the number can be $2,000 a month, but you tell me, I've yet to figure out a way to teach someone that money's not the answer. They have to experience that. I can't, because we're told that our whole life from lots of really important and smart people, right? But yet we still chase the money. And if you think
we chase it because of the guys who are sitting on their cars and sitting on the planes to tell us that we should chase it like they did. And then they get off that car that's leased and the plane that's not theirs.
Yeah. And drink themselves to sleep. Yeah. But if you think you're at 100,000 and you're not going to have problems at 500,000, I can't help you.
No, you're going to have problems all the way through until you figure out what you want in life.
Right.
Because we've all made, and you, like you said, you can't tell someone that. They got to make it and lose it. They got to make it and go and ruin their life somehow. And I grew up dirt road poor after my dad died. And so I thought money was everything, because, that changed everything for me. Well, it did. But the problem is then you build it and then you have no problem risking it. Right. And then you risk it and you lose it. And then you got to start all over. Well, I tried. Let me try a different way. Or then unfortunately in our industry, you have some president get elected and destroys the economy. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've been around long enough. I mean, I went through 08, 09 as a realtor and a builder. I
yeah,
mean,
I
I knew
went through
guys
that
that
too.
killed themselves,
Yeah.
and why? Because of money.
Mhm.
They're defined by money. They're defined by their things. And it's easy for us to sit here and say it with the benefit of hindsight, but you have to live it. You have to live it and go through those things.
Totally. Back to your wave method. What is that? I assume, is that an acronym?
Yeah. So it's your why, authenticity, values, exploration, and statement of purpose. And I'll go through them real fast, but it's, your why, your passionate why. Why do you get up every day other than a paycheck? And when I'm working with people privately, I throw them the curveball that it can't involve money, power, or notoriety. So you throw that in there. And then the A is authenticity, which leads into values. And we talked about authenticity. It has to be for you. It can't be for anyone else. And invariably, I just started working with a fella. He's a musician in Denmark. And when I'm starting somebody's triangle model of what, their one big thing, what their next year is going to look like, and we're working backwards, it invariably changes after they go through the values exercise. Because the example I'll give is somebody that has kids, they will put down family as one of their top values. Not because they actually give a rip about their family, and they probably do, but because family needs to be there, right? Or what would people think of me?
Right.
And
Exactly.
so, but once you probe into that and figure out there's a lot of other values you can have that make you a good mom or a good dad, family
Right.
doesn't have to be your top value. So, and then it's exploration. It comes out of values, and that's in the highs and lows of your day and your life. You look at this values list that we're working through, and you say, "What am I honoring right now?" Like my day is awesome. Like for you, right? I'm on the radio all day, or I'm on a podcast all day. You don't even look at the clock because you enjoy what you're doing. What values are you honoring right now that makes that so? Then on the flip side of that, your day's shit. You don't want to get up. You don't want to go to work. You don't want to do the thing. You're procrastinating. Why? What values are you not honoring? And it's in those highs and lows that you get the real values that make you tick. And then ultimately you build a statement of purpose. And that's if you're from the sales world, it's your elevator pitch. It's that 2 or
Mhm.
3 sentence, this is who I am. This is why Ed shows up every day. This is what I stand for and what I'm about. And when you make any decision, if you've done these things in the waves method, it makes everything a very easy yes or no, because you can look through those filters and say, this is not a fit for me. New homes. Well, I'm going to get a lot of money. Well, I'm going to have no time. Well, I'm going to have to work every vacation or every holiday. Well, no, that's not a fit. Goodbye. It's not a yes or no list. I'm not going to ask my buddy at the bar. Like it makes it a simple thing, but you have to do this work when you're not in decision-making mode and when you're not under some kind of distress. You need time to work through these things.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, you need to be named on the other side of what I do. I'm just kidding. Because I mean, and what's nice is you have a deep voice like I do, so people are really going to like this episode. Yes, I'm
We both
telling you,
have
I had
faces for radio, my friend.
that too. But I didn't, and I do a sales podcast called Aces. It originally was something I learned, Aces and a Joker in sales, which is attitude, commitment, enthusiasm, and smile, which you bring to the table when you're in sales. You got to have all those. Same thing with radio, man. You got to have all that, or any podcast. But the Joker is that unique ability you bring to the table that nobody else has. When I sold by the phone, it was my voice. I had no idea. Because you didn't have headphones back then, right?
Yeah.
You didn't, not like this. And and then I got on radio. It was like, oh man, I know that guy, kind of, and that's so, and that Aces and a Joker works for everything,
Sure.
right? Not just sales, but it's what you bring to the table with whatever you do. And I'm not trying to promote my other podcast. I'm just saying I
Do
understand
it.
what you're saying.
Promote it.
I understand the waves method is just like what I came up with. Mine came from one of my instructors when I was in college. And I don't think he really, and I didn't realize what he had given me until 20 some years later. It was probably longer than that, but and I fell out of this cabinet when I was trying to figure out with a friend of mine what to do on a sales podcast. I was like, that's perfect. It's exactly what we need to do. Just
Yeah.
like your book is to help people understand the process, but you can, it's like the whole statement, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink. You got to let it get really thirsty. And that's what you're doing with your people. You're helping them, but they still got to figure it out.
Oh, that's it. I mean, most of the work is on them. You've got to want it. And there's a quiz on my website that people run through, and you self-identify into one of those 5 categories, and I don't work with everybody. I will only work with that middle category and 4 people in the top 2. But it's, there again, it goes back to that guy that thinks, or gal that thinks, that money's going to solve their problem. There's lots of examples of that aren't just money, but where you have to be ready, and you have to, when the student's ready, the teacher appears, right?
Right, exactly. And you do need mentors, and you need to go to masterminds. You need a coach, a corpsman, whatever that is. You need to have that. Too many people try to go alone, but I want to go back to why is the most important thing. And that's why. And a lot of times when you ask somebody what their why is, the first why is they tell you what you want to hear, and then the second why is what they think, and then the third, you ask them again the third why, and that's really what it is.
Right.
This, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't think people understand that, because just like you said, when they put family down first, because they better, right? Because if they don't
know they're doing it.
Well, they do know, but they think out of guilt, they have to put it first.
Yeah. We weren't taught to think another way. Like that's what it boils down to. You're taught to fit in. I mean, it's tribal, right? It goes back to crazy amounts of evolution. But the guy who didn't fit in got eaten. You don't have to be faster than the bear, right?
You just gotta be faster than the last guy.
Yeah,
the guy behind you. So all right, so I got your waves. What's the, because I saw your quiz on your website. So if you take it and it tells you, so why don't we go through that level again? The different.
Yeah. So it starts with the believer. It goes from believer to business Buddha. And the believer
is how many? 5?
There's 5.
Okay.
And the believer is, and you tell me if any of these do or have ever resonated with you or anyone you know. The believer, I've got this thing. Everybody's going to want that thing. I just need to get it in front of enough people, and I'll be a billionaire. In 6 months, I'll be retired. That moves into the showman. Some people actually do want this thing. I'm working 25 hours a day, 8 days a week. This is a lot harder than they told me it was going to be. There's a lot of things I need to learn. I went from uninformed optimism to informed pessimism, right? And I could take a vacation, but I can't, because the whole thing will fall apart if I leave. That's the showman. Then you move into the anxious philosopher, where you have all signs of Western success. Every metric, every box is being checked. A lot of people want your thing, but you wake up every day and say, is this all there is? You feel isolated. You feel alone, because it's a very first world problem. Most people want what you have. So you can't complain to your friends or your family or the guy at the bar or the lady at your yoga class about how you're making $300,000 a year and you're miserable. Nobody wants to hear it. So you need to make a change, but you don't know who to ask. So typically people will either self-sabotage at that point, or they'll go back to the believer and they'll start something new. If they're an entrepreneur, they'll go back to corporate. If they're corporate, they'll start a business. They chase the next shiny thing because they got there, didn't feel the success. Clearly they did something wrong. I need to start over. But if you do this inner work, which is what the Waves method, and I'm not the only guy on the block that has something similar, but if you do this inner work, eventually you move into the peaceful warrior, where the things you are doing are on purpose. That's where you're at right now. It's where I'm at right now. I'm going to build this thing because it's for me. I've made the mistakes, or I've learned from others who have made the mistakes, to your point about coaching or masterminds. And now I'm going to build a thing that I know will fulfill me, whether I make $1 or $1 million. And then ultimately you move into business Buddha, which you can infer what business Buddha is, right? You're purely enlightened, and every decision you make is gold. But
I thought it was everybody's worshiping you.
or you're just fat, you eat a lot.
I guess I got that one down.
Either way we win.
Yeah.
But my purpose here is because I donate everything I do. I mean, 100% of what we do here is donated to the foundation. And
to your foundation?
Send a student leader abroad. Yeah, our goal is to send 1 million kids abroad. But because I don't have to do anything at all. I sold my last business. I'm fine. I can just go piddle with the hot rods and do some woodworking and throw on my white Velcro New Balance and troll you for what you're doing. But that's not what this is about, right? It's about, there's a lot of people in a lot of pain that are at that middle level, and there is no market for them. They're not, they don't know who to ask, and nobody will understand what they're going through. And that's what I'm trying to deliver in the book, in my private coaching, and everything I do is to move people through that level 3, the anxious philosopher, caveat, if that's what they want.
Right. Yes, and a lot of people don't realize our worst day is somebody's best day.
Yeah. How many
You know,
things do you have now that once were a dream, right?
right? No, I'm just saying people. I heard that from a guy that was one of our people, Steve Sims, in a thing. He's like, your guys' worst day is somebody else's best day,
Yeah.
and it's so true because we're at a certain level, or that if certain things happen and it messes with what we're doing and what we're trying to do, but we're still way ahead of most people. Right. And I think it's unusual for people to realize that when in that situation, what are you doing? What, relook at everything. Like for me recently with what has happened, I relooked at everything I was doing and what do I want to make changes and how do I want to move forward? Because I didn't like the way I was going. People, I'm a vet. All right. People irritate the hell out of me, and it's because civilians don't do it the way that we're used to. And it's been almost 30 years since I've been in, and it still is the issue. It's like, okay, where's your attention to detail? What is your, that kind of stuff. And it's just easier with I'm in California. It's just easier with contract people because you get employees and they just, they nickel and dime you. Don't work, don't do this. And I'm not saying all employees are that way. I'm just saying it just seems like that's what you have to deal with. I don't want to deal with that. There's so many things you can do to help people to make your life better that you don't have to have that big ass company that everybody thinks you should have.
Yeah, that's it, right? Well, because again, we're not, if you're at 1 million, you need to go to 10 million. You're at 10 million, you need to go to 100 million. Otherwise, why are you doing it? And people are mystified when I tell them. I would say that 80% plus of my private clients have no interest in getting any bigger at all. They want to buy their time back. They want to go to their kid's t-ball game. They don't want to miss their mom before she passes. Like there's all these things that have nothing to do with top line revenue.
Well, success is a definition that each one of us has to come up with.
Yeah,
right. That you can't go with, well, success to me is 20 billion. No, it could be you make enough money to where you can do everything you want to do and make all those goals. But you have to define that. And I think people define it by other people, what they're telling them it is. You need to figure it out for yourself and stop worrying about what people used to call in the 80s and 90s the Joneses, right?
Right.
Even though, because they don't call them the Joneses anymore. But you know what I mean? It's just you have to figure this stuff out. And it's a lot easier now. And people are going to say, what are you talking about? You have this internet, you have video across I can be on a podcast a day and that guy's in Australia or somewhere else. And we're talking about all this. We're so connected, which is so easy to start a business, do this different things, get connected with the people you need to get connected with to get help, coaching, whatever that is. It's so easy today compared to 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Like I said, I've been doing this for 5 years. The difference in video and podcasting and everything that's changed in that last year and a half to 2 years is huge.
Yeah. I was on a group coaching call with Hormozy, which most people know who Alex Hormozy is, but he said something good when we were ending the call. This was last week, and you've heard it before, but it's, you're going to learn the lesson. You're going to get what you need to know and where you're going to be. All a coach does is get you there faster. You're just paying for speed. You're going to figure it out. You're going to fail enough times that you're going to figure it out, or you can learn it from somebody who's already done it. And the people who are willing to do that are the ones that are in the rocket ship. The ones who are like, coaching's a scam. It's like, oh, good luck. We'll see you at the other end of the deal.
Need my help. They're not at the point where they need or they think it's worth it. They'll never be there. Right. It just, some people just won't be there. That's okay. You can't help everybody. And I think that's what people need to realize. You can't help everybody. You can only help the people who want help. It's the same thing, whether it's drugs, alcohol, all that. Nobody comes to the table until they're ready. Same thing here. You can only help people who are ready and want help. And that's, now there's so many avenues of so many different things to do this, to help people. And, a lot of people don't realize what we think is common knowledge, people will pay for.
Yeah. I was just having that conversation with somebody yesterday about, because you think it's easy doesn't mean it's not valuable. And I was having that conversation 10 years ago with my accountant. We were building a house. I hate accounting, but she loves it. She sits there for 10 hours a day doing books and she's happy as pig and, whatever. But when I build a house,
you can say
magic.
Shit. Okay.
It's magic. Podcast. Okay, shit. It's magic. How does he build the house? And for me, I'm like, how can I possibly charge people to do this? You just build it. You get the people, You do it in order. It's not, it just doesn't seem that hard to me. Real estate
Well,
deal, same thing.
right.
It doesn't
Well,
seem that hard.
it's like coaching people to, what I'm like, people pay for that? Oh yeah, all the time. What? I mean, it's what we have is so what we think because we've learned it over the years. It's so, and I was talking to somebody and they said the most basic stuff sells the most.
Yeah. How to knit, how to play the
Well, just
trombone.
basic they go, we sell more on and I'm not talking the knitting part, but of like real estate or whatever. What is the basic part? How to get this? The bare minimum is what they will pay the most for.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
First step.
people don't know how to get started. Yeah, the first step, and that's hard. And it's there's so many different ways to do that now. Courses and how to set up your own courses, and there's so many avenues now to make money and be able to be there for people that you don't have to put up with. And I think the pandemic taught us that.
Yeah. I mean, there was some good that came out of the pandemic, and people, the whole, mass exodus of working in the office. I love watching from the sidelines. I mean, I haven't been that guy in a real long time, but people just saying, yeah, no, I'm not coming back. I love that.
Mhm.
Good for you.
And if you look on LinkedIn and any of those jobs, because I get them sent to me all the time, and they're like remote, and I'm close to the Bay Area, so a lot of those are like San Francisco. No, nobody wants to come in anymore. A
Right.
2.5 hour drive in the morning. No, thank you.
Yeah, no
Do it
windows on
remote.
the way home.
Yeah, exactly. Well, didn't have to get there, but even me, I mean, it's like I moved my studio back to my house because I was doing 5 o'clock in the morning and stuff and 6 o'clock at the office, and it messed up my whole day. I couldn't do everything I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Now I moved it here, and it's like I'm in here. I'll be in here all day, and then I'm like, okay, well, I've done everything I needed to do in this little room because I figured that out in my office. I was in 2 places. I had my own big office, right? Desk, huge couch, the whole thing. I wasn't in there for 3 months. I was in the studio or in the editing room. Now they're all in the same place. And I don't, because this is where I sit here, I'll talk to clients and do everything right here. Right. And so, and you just have to figure out, like you said, what is your why? And you need to write it down a couple times because someone needs to ask you 3 times to figure that out. Even clients you deal with, you need to have them find out their why multiple times. And that's like me in my industry. When I ask a client, what are you looking to do for the home or whatever? Why are you doing that? And my wife always grabs my leg when we're out at dinner or somewhere, and I'm asking people questions of why they're doing certain things. And she's like,
oh, we're the worst at dinner parties, aren't we?
Oh my God. It's like, I want to understand why you think the way you do. I'm not saying it's wrong. I might not agree with it. I want to know why you think the way you do. And that's the only way we can understand to do what we do.
And how many people don't know past a surface answer? It's frightening.
Right. Well, when they get upset, they don't know past it and they don't understand anything.
Right.
That's how you know if they get all pissed out. Am I reading it? Well, all right, let's work through this, shall we?
Yeah.
You were just told this. You have no idea why you think this.
Or one of my, I don't know if it's a pet peeve or what you would call it, but the people that don't think something's possible because X, and you probe half a layer deep, and well, I guess it is possible, and it's like, yeah.
Well, we got to get out of our own way. That's our first mistake. We're always we're our worst critic, and you can thank your parents for that.
I was in Austin 2 weeks ago. I was doing a keynote out there for the Books and Business Conference, and it was a pretty cool room of people. Some names you'd probably recognize, but I ended the conference with, there's one thing that you need to be doing right now that would make your business, your life, whatever it is, better, your health. There's one thing you're not doing it, and you see all the eyes. Why aren't you doing it? And that's what I left them with, because we all have that thing. I don't care what level you're at. There's that one thing you need to do right now, and you're just not doing it.
Right. Well, it's like what Ed Milet, right? That's the guy. He, be the one. And I was like, dude, I'm gonna get that tattooed on my forearm. I still haven't done it, but I had my first tattoo at 50, which was the Camino de Santiago. We in Spain, we walked that.
Nice.
And did it twice. Did it from one route, from the France route, and then we did it from the Portugal route. And then I came back. That was my first one. And I was in the Navy. Most of these guys have tattoos all over. I have a problem with commitment when it comes to that long-term stuff. Not with wives, but it's just like it's on me forever. But that was something that made a difference in my life because of just the walking and the thinking and what I listened to books the whole time.
Yeah.
and the same
What I
2
would-
books multiple times while I was
What were
doing
the
it.
2 books?
It was Steve Sims' Blue Fishing. I don't know if you know him.
Mm-mm.
It's a story how he grew up in London and he was walking up a ladder and looked down and he saw his whole family tree on that ladder. He was a bricklayer. And then he's like, this is enough. And how it's just his life stories. And then it just made you think about things differently. And then the other one was, it's a red book. Can't think of his name. It was how to look at things differently and how to make changes and make it easier by using Zapier and other stuff to connect everything, make it so much easier.
Gotcha.
And then, we all have high level now to make it even easier. So,
Right.
God, those guys are great. And I finally found the perfect person to help me. So,
Yeah. Well, that'd be a tangent on its own, but high levels, not always intuitive. I guess we'll just put
no, but you still, I'm
powerful.
talking about go high level, right?
Oh, yeah. I've got
software. Yeah. So, it puts everything in one place for you that you can handle you don't have to multiple services all over the place. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm just saying it's much better.
It does a lot.
Oh yeah. It's huge.
A lot. Yeah.
Yeah. It's changed. I started into it and then I was looking for some people to help and, people are I could do it. And then they can't do it. And I finally found this guy has been I think his number is 7 or 9. His license when they say give me your number. Yeah. He was like the 7th or 9th guy getting in 2019.
Wow.
Yeah, he's been dealing with that long, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it's easy," and he fixed everything. I was having all these issues, and he's fixed everything. Everybody's like, "Give me his name." No,
what we were just talking about. Simple for him, right? And we're willing to pay for it.
And I'm like, "Dude, I can get you set up for training everywhere."
Yeah.
And he's like, "I'm very particular of what I want to do. I don't start my day until like 1, and then I only work till 6." Okay, whatever. That's your life. That's what you want to do.
Hey,
that's you.
Good for him.
And that's that whole thing we're talking about. What does that look like to you, and how is that? Right.
Yeah.
And I try to explain to people, it's different now. Don't go get a job. Don't just do your company. Do multiple streams of income. Get some real estate. Get other stuff, but have multiple streams of income so you don't ever have to worry about like what just happened with me in my mortgage industry because they killed a pipeline. Now we caused inflation into the roof, and then our rates go from 3. I knew they wouldn't stay at 3%, but I didn't think they get to 8.25. Right. I got into this business. I was taking people from 13 to 9, and they loved me. When I was getting them 2.99, 2.75, they thought I was taking advantage of them.
Yeah.
But then you fast forward to today, it's just that we didn't have to be here. It's ruining a lot of stuff, and you have to make sure your businesses understand that. So you have multiple streams. It doesn't matter if one of them goes down. It's just like, if you're diversifying in stocks and all the other stuff as an investment, whatever that is.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
All right, Rodric, you wrote the book. And this is your baby, your book. You talk about it all the time. Is there something I didn't go over that you want to tell people about besides what is that one thing they're not doing? They need to get out and do it.
No. You want me to leave you with a parting quote?
Sure. What the heck?
It's tattooed on my forearm.
I can't read it.
It's the cost of anything is the amount of life you exchange for it.
Wow. It's so true. What are you willing to give up to get?
There you go.
I'm going to make mine a little shorter. What are you willing to give up to get? What's the best way for people to find you?
$1,000,000flipflops.com and at $1,000,000flipflops on every social media channel.
So not Rodric Lenhart anywhere. It's better to do the flip flop.
Yeah, just $1,000,000 flip flop. If you type in my name, you'll find it. Luckily, I have a unique spelling of Rodric, so
yeah, you do.
I'm pretty easy to find on the interwebs. Oh, and my show just launched. I need to have you on my show.
Sure, I'd love to. And that's like me having Parcaut. There's probably only 11 of us in the United States left. And I have it everywhere. I'm Ed Parcaut everywhere. And it was like, and it's true. You need to be the same everywhere, whatever that is. There's only one that I'm not. And that's the original Facebook page is my personal page, which is Edward, but everywhere else I'm Ed Parcaut everywhere else. So, because you can't change that once you get that in there for so long. You still there?
Yeah. You froze up on me.
You froze up on me. It's you this time. All right. I appreciate you being on the show today. Thank you so much. Everybody go to his $1,000,000 flip flops. Love that, man. It's just keeps reminding me of my wife every time I see it. And again, thank you so much for being on the Inner Edison podcast.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it.